All right, welcome back. Now it's time for us to get into the health segment. Before we do that, let me just quickly read a birthday message for you. This is a happy birthday, Vida Nyako. You're a beautician at Nungwa C5. And this message says, you make people more beautiful and confident every day. You deserve to be celebrated and appreciated for your hard work and talent. This is coming from David right here at Citi TV. Not me, another David.
Who David?
Another David.
Which one?
You know the other David.
Okay, the one I'm seeing?
Yes, the one you're seeing.
Okay.
Yes. All right, well, it's time for us to welcome our friendly neighborhood family doctor. I think that's how I like to call him. Dr. Kelvin is here. We're going to be discussing allergies. Take a pen and get ready. Dr. Kelvin, how are you?
David, I'm very well. It's good to have you back.
Where did I
you were not here the past couple of episodes.
Oh,
and it's showing on your face, you know.
Really?
It's like, yeah,
Well, am I glowing?
yeah, you are.
Oh, really?
You have to show me the secrets.
It's lemon rind.
Okay.
That's the secret.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but I'll research.
Yeah, it's reminds making a face like that. I don't understand.
I'll tell
Do
you
you have
what it
allergies?
is.
We have done your face. Do you have allergies?
To where you went to. Yeah, the allergies are derived from where you went to. I'll share that with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. But this morning we are looking at allergies, you know, and
Yes,
I
we
think
are.
that allergies are one of the difficult things to handle because sometimes you don't even know what you're dealing with.
Sure.
Yeah, but for the purposes of this conversation, let's start from the basics. When we say allergies, what are we talking about?
Okay, so let's check this scenario out. So
Okay.
you were leaving home for work, and then you you spoke to your partner, your wife or your husband, and he gave you a cheeky answer. So you are upset. When you get to the office, you are the boss. Then the receptionist is trying to say, "Oh, hello, madam, how are you?" Then you snap at her, give her a piece of your mind, and you just walk on. Then everybody is shocked. Then you're like, but madam is not usually like this. You know, she's usually a nice person, you know. But then what's happening today? It's like this is an abnormal reaction.
Yeah.
You see, so that's actually what an allergy is.
Okay.
It's like something so unrelated, and then the body just responds like out of whack. It's like,
What's
trying to
going on?
kill an ant with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You know, so that's basically what an allergy is.
Okay.
Something that everybody would ignore, or on a regular day, it doesn't even warrant a response. Then suddenly,
So the body is overreacting.
pretty much,
Okay.
to something that is insignificant, and that's really what it is. Most allergens are everyday things, rice. Why is the body, responding to rice in a negative manner?
Okay.
We all love rice.
Okay.
Pollen is from plants, So allergy basically is an abnormal reaction of the body to various substances in the environment. That's
Okay.
really what an allergy is.
So are people born with allergies, or can you, in the course of your life, develop certain allergies?
So so allergies are in the environment,
Okay.
So you are not necessarily born with an allergy.
Okay.
You encounter these things in the environment that we live in. So rather put this way, allergy is a Dadabi problem. It's a Dadabi person's problem.
What does that mean?
Yes, so depending on how clean your environment is, your risk of developing allergies is actually higher.
Say that again.
You know how they say the street children don't typically fall sick?
Yeah.
Everything goes. They know the further they rise, they eat anything. They're
Exactly.
fine.
But take your child through that same experience just a few minutes, and that child will probably break down.
Okay.
You see, it's because of the quantum of exposure to some of these things. You see, when you are always outdoors, or when you are always being exposed to these triggers, your body sort of is desensitized.
Okay.
But if you are not exposed to these things, then your risk of having an overreaction is higher. So that's why we call it a Dadabi problem.
Okay.
So people in the West, the US, the Canada, the developed areas, prevalence of allergies are much, much higher than we see here in Ghana, because generally our living conditions are not as good as those people over there.
Okay.
So that's the thing. And in Ghana, it's also cast across the socio-economic divide. So people from the higher, income earners have a higher risk of developing allergies.
Okay.
So it is a DADA problem.
So can you have a certain allergy and then grow out of it?
Yes, you do. Most allergies, you actually grow out of most allergies, you know. So for instance, among school-going children in the US, 50% of such children have allergies to one thing or another thing.
Okay.
You know, but as they grow older, by the time you reach adulthood, that number drops about 25%.
Okay.
You know, so generally people grow out of allergies. And this is because of what I mentioned earlier, because as you are older, as you are growing older, your exposure to these allergens, you know, keeps getting more and more, you are exposed to it more often.
Yeah.
So your body naturally would desensitize against it and eventually you overcome it. I mean, asthma is one of the classic allergies that are out there. It is actually, it's an allergy in a way. Most children who are asthmatic tend to grow out of asthma as they age. You see, so even in this room, I'm sure there are people who are asthmatic as children, but they haven't had an attack since they started working here. You know, since they became adults. So it's the same for most allergies.
So in your example that you gave at the beginning, so it would be like the boss haven't had enough exposure to her partner's, you know,
nuances.
yes,
So now if you do cry, I don't care.
So now she's learned how not to respond or react in a certain way and let it affect other people.
Exactly. I mean, it's even outside, away from allergies. If you live in a particular area, even in your own room, if your own room has a smell, you actually don't smell it after some time.
Okay.
But somebody comes to you, comes to visit you, and will tell her, there's a smell in this place. You know, it's because if you are constantly being exposed to a particular noxious, or even if it's a good thing, over time you don't recognize it anymore. You know. So for instance, I know there's a smell in hospitals because, and this is from history. Back in the day, whenever I go to hospital, there's a smell. You know, the chemicals they used to clean.
Yeah.
But now, as a doctor, I don't smell that thing anymore.
But we come in and we smell that.
But you come in and you can tell that you are in a hospital. I can't tell that I'm in a hospital based on that smell alone. I mean, I know I'm in a hospital, but I don't smell anything like that. It doesn't mean that smell is not there. It means that because I've been exposed to it every single day, because your brain needs to function. It cannot always focus on this thing because it's always going to be there. It's not going to go away now. You know, but if you were to travel out of that place for a prolonged period of time and it came back, you'd experience that thing again, you know, but over time it will still
So anything and everything can be an allergy?
Everything can be an allergy. You know, there are people allergic to some of the weirdest things out there. You know, so we have the rice, the pollen. Pollen is actually one of the most common, you know, because you have plants all around us. And that's why in this season, when it's raining, because when the rain hits the flowers, it dislodges the pollen. You know, then the wind carries it, and then you would inhale it, and it will trigger an allergic reaction. So people would start sneezing.
Everybody has cold. Everybody is sick.
But you see, the sneezing and the running nose of allergy is more common in the morning, and it gets better during the day.
Okay.
And this is because, you know, as the wind blows, the pollen or the dust or other particles will settle on your bed and your pillow. So when you go lie down on the bed, you take it all in. So by morning when you wake up, you have a lot of reaction to it. So you are sneezing, your eyes are red, you are itchy, you are rubbing the eye, you know, you are probably scratching the skin as well, the nose is running. But as you are progressing through the day, because you are no longer on the bed, the response goes down. So by evening time, you are fine. But then the cycle kind of repeats itself in the morning, you know. But then the thing is, if it was just about sneezing and rubbing your eye, I mean, it would be okay. But those are like the mildest of allergies, yes. Because there are allergic responses that could end you in the emergency room, you know, because, and it could actually kill you. Something like anaphylaxis, where there's generalized vasodilation, which means all your blood vessels are opened up. You know, at any point in time, not all your blood vessels are open. You know, the body focuses on the essential parts. You know, so if I'm not running, I don't need all my muscles in my leg, for instance, to be receiving blood. You know, so those blood vessels would close up, and then the blood would be used elsewhere. But when you have generalized opening up of everything because of an allergy, your blood pressure would drop significantly. you can't keep up, and if you don't get to a hospital for them to, revive you, or at least try and give you some fluids, you will die. And so that's a very major emergency. Then we have allergic responses, like when there's a bee sting and the people start swelling. And I don't know if you have ever seen that in movies or you have read about that. It can also happen in the throat, so the windpipe begins to close up because of the swelling. The swelling is not just happening on the outside, it's also happening on the inside. So it's literally closing the airway, so that is also an emergency that needs quick attention. Otherwise, you can't breathe and you die from lack of oxygen. So even though, like I said, allergies are common, it does not mean we should overlook it. Now, the interesting thing about allergies too is that sometimes the same allergy that triggered a mild, mild reaction could, on a separate occasion, trigger a massive allergic reaction, which could cause you problems. Which is why, even though we know that repeated exposure can help you overcome it, we don't advise that you intentionally go and get stung by a bee just so you can overcome your bee allergy. Because you could die. Maybe the first time there was just redness and itching around that area. Next time it could be a full-blown anaphylactic attack and you will die in the bush. So yes, you need to be smart about how you deal with your allergies. The easiest thing to do would be first of all to identify what the trigger is. Because what triggers it for me might be different from what triggers it for you.
So I was going to ask that, are there things that naturally can make people react? So for instance, there are known stuff, so like not everybody can take garlic. So are there things that if you are not too sure, you may want to be careful? Or when it comes to allergies, we can't really tell until you go through the experience, and then you know that, okay, so I can't take beans, I can't take this, I can't be in a room with fresh paint. So
as it is with everything medical or medicine, family history is important. So if you know that in my family, somebody, especially first-degree relative, is allergic to, let's say, nuts, and you are going out and there are nuts in there, you want to be careful. Because if somebody in your family has had a nut allergy, the probability that you may have it just has not shown up yet is high. So even though by all means indulge in the nuts, but know that if it should happen, if you should start seeing the sign, because the thing is, it doesn't just start boom and then you are down dying. It will give you some signs. So if your parent or your sibling had an issue, you know how it started. So when you start noticing things like that, you need to position yourself well to be heading towards the hospital, you see. Because nut allergy is not too common in Ghana, but it is there. And you see, let me not even say it's not too common, because now we have a lot of expatriates in Ghana. And a lot of these expatriates may have nut allergy. So it's getting to a point where we need to actually start labeling our foods, because we have nuts in a lot of our foods, but labeling, we don't label, we don't put the warnings on it. Milk is also something that not everybody can take, especially adults in this case. Because as you grow older, for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, the enzyme that processes milk, it begins to switch off as you grow older.
Because somebody actually told me that, she was fine until she gave birth, and now she can't take milk.
Yes, so it's called lactose intolerance. So that the enzyme kind of switches off. So now when you actually take milk, you begin to bloat and with flatulence and have a lot of discomfort.
So I found out that, just as you were saying, that repeated exposure, right? I decided that I wasn't going to let the milk intolerance thing be a problem for me. So I started deliberately increasing the amount of dairy products and milk that I take. As at now, I can literally down a whole tin of milk and I'm good, But I noticed that it didn't happen in a day. Oh no, it didn't. And I went through things sometimes. I actually had diarrhea sometimes and all that. But now I'm good.
Yes, so I mean you can actually do it, but that's what I'm saying, that it depends on what you are dealing with. So there are allergic reactions that are notoriously dangerous. I mean, bee sting, it cannot be overemphasized. That's what bee sting. If you play with it, you will die. So if you've had a bee sting and you had a massive reaction, don't go and sting yourself again because you want to be sensitive. And then seafood is another thing that people tend to be allergic to as well. So if there's seafood in the mix or whatever you're doing, I mean, you need to be aware, that it's there. And if you're allergic to it, avoid it, because you see, elsewhere they have facilities, emergency packs available with EpiPens that can intervene should there be an issue like that. I don't know how many of our facilities have EpiPens available, and so if you want to be adventurous, not in
travel outside and go and do that.
You see, I mean, I'm not happy saying that, but Charlie,
it is the reality.
It is the reality.
Yeah, but how do you deal with allergies? So you have a reaction, what do you do?
So it depends on the severity. Most allergies, like I said, you can just continue with your day. I mean, if you are sneezing and you are still able to function,
Can you take like antihistamine?
You can, if it's severe, you can take antihistamine. And thankfully, most antihistamines a lot of antihistamines are sold over the counter, so you can actually just grab them, and they are all labeled anti-allergy. So you can just grab a bottle and keep in your medicine cabinet, and then take it. And you can also sometimes even take it before the event. So I mean, if you know that it's going to be a windy day, there's going to be a lot of dust in the air, you can actually take the antihistamine before you step out, so that to minimize the impact. But if the antihistamine is not working, you need to report to hospital, so that because there are other higher medication that can be used to intervene in the situation. You see, but ultimately, like I said, the bigger challenge in dealing with allergies is that most people are not even aware what they are allergic to.
That's the issue.
It's a big problem, and it's not their fault, because sometimes the trigger is so insignificant. You see, and so for you to be able to determine or the skill to determine what is causing the allergy is actually the more difficult thing, because it requires you to keep a diary. So, and sometimes the diary, you have to do a recall. Okay, so I started sneezing this morning. What did I do yesterday? Where did I go? What did I eat? So we list that for this first time. If it happens again, then you start, okay, so I'm sneezing again this morning. What happened yesterday? Then you now begin to try and find
trace.
Common things in there. So that then we begin to see that, okay, there's a trend. So if I sit in this particular place at this time of the day, I tend to have a cough in the next morning. This is actually how we pick up a lot of the triggers. And once you identify the trigger, now you need to avoid those triggers. So if your trigger tends to be, some of them are difficult to avoid. I mean, if it's pollen, you can't really avoid pollen unless you're walking around in a helmet or something. It's difficult to avoid.
Mask. Face mask.
You see, but if you see the face mask, when it comes to pollen, by the time you have been wearing the face mask, there's pollen you have trapped the pollen in there in a way. You see, because the thing is in the air. So pollen is difficult to deal with. But thankfully, pollen allergy tends to be mild, and like I said, it's in the morning. As the day progresses, it gets better, and they typically will respond to antihistamines. That's the anti-allergy medication. So at least it's not as disruptive.
Okay.
But there are other, sinister allergies that are out there.
Fantastic. Dr. Kelvin, how do people get in touch with you if they want to hear more and know more?
Well, I'm active on social media, Kelvin Owusu, MD, and you can also follow my clinic page as well, Violet Medical Center.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you for this. All right, so we'll be speaking with Dr. Kelvin Owusu, who is a wellness consultant with the Violet Medical Center.